Hello everyone. Today I'll be ranking every gang member death in Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Redemption 1. Thanks to Mr. Zero in the Discord for the idea. Now my main rule for this is it has to be an on-screen death. Nothing like Strauss where he died in between the epilogue and the main story. Now let's get into it. In last place, it's gonna have to go to Lenny. Now don't get me wrong, Lenny is one of my favorite characters, but he was done dirty with his death. His death is the only one in the entire game without a cutscene, and they just have Arthur sitting at his body for a few seconds, and they just have to keep running. I do like the way that even though Arthur and Lenny were close, he didn't want to end up getting shot too, so he still had to keep running. But even that, overall, he's my least favorite death. In number 12, I have Uncle's death. Uncle is in my top 3 favorite characters, but his death felt kind of rushed, like they just had to kill him off before anything else happens, so they kind of just threw it in there. So, overall, one of my least favorites. In number 11, I have Miss Grimshaw. Miss Grimshaw's death is crazy, but almost no one bats an eye, as she's wheezing and just dying on the ground. Even Dutch barely cared, even though they knew each other for nearly 15 years. Her death does initiate the final showdown with Dutch choosing Micah's side, so her death does give the story a bit of a push, but her death kind of felt thrown in there, like Uncle's. They couldn't have another person in camp that wasn't going to be in the epilogue or Red Dead Redemption 1, so they killed her. In number 10, I have Bill's death. Most of the first half of the game is trying to find Bill, and literally the very beginning of the game you get shot by him. After all the buildup of trying to find him, and then finally getting to shoot him is so satisfying in its own way, because he just spent a good chunk of the game trying to escape you. So, it's a good death, but not good enough in my opinion to go any higher. In number 9, I have Javier's. Now, Javier's death is a bit of a gray area, because you can choose to kill or spare him, but I always kill him, so we're just gonna go with that. The build-up to finding him is so well written with Landon Ricketts in Mexico and everything else. I also love, right before Javier jumps out the window, we get some backstory, which we end up seeing in Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a great scene, so even though it's in number 9, it's still a really good one. In number 8, I have Sean. Besides Arthur, Sean is my favorite character by far. But his death was so sudden, you couldn't even process his death, because you immediately get thrown into a gunfight. Now, the gunfight I love and hate. I love it because that's how Arthur felt. It's immersive to where it's like a fog of battle, so to speak. But then once you start to realize, oh, he's dead, you get thrown into another battle, the assault on Braithwaite Manor, which, don't get me wrong, it's my favorite mission in the whole game. But Sean kind of felt forgotten right after this mission. The death is cool, but not cool enough, so that's why I think number 8 is appropriate. In number 7, I have Molly. I have Molly's death above all the other ones because of the shock value. Now, don't get me wrong, the others had a ton of shock value as well. This whole time, everyone was thinking there's a rat, and then Molly's saying she's the one. It lures you into a false sense of security, like maybe the game will be alright. And then, Arthur trying to defuse the tension with Dutch, and then, bang! Out of nowhere, Miss Grimshaw cocking her gun as Molly falls on the ground. It's just cinematic. So that's why it's in number 7. In number 6, I have Hosea. Now, I'm sure some people expected this to be higher, but after thinking about it, there's no way it can be. Hosea's death is super scary in the buildup of Dutch talking to Milton. I really like how even Dutch is in disbelief at what he saw when he dies. His lifelong friend being shot. So, with all that being said, that's why Hosea is in number 6. In number 5, I have Kieran. Kieran's death is above Hosea's because it has more shock value. Yes, even more than Hosea's death. To see a dude holding his own head would knock some people off the rocker. That, mixed with Mary Beth screaming, with gunfire, it's a masterpiece. It's kind of like Sean's death. It all happens so fast. You see a friend killed, then immediately thrown into a gunfight. But do you know the difference and why it's better? No? Well, the answer is number C. You get to see the death more close up, rather than just a man falling. You get to see what really happens. Plus, it's something even more unnatural than getting a shot to the dome in the Wild West, getting your head chopped off. Also, the music gives it that eerie bayou vibe, so that's another reason why it's so good. So that's why it's in number 5. In the 4th place, it has to go to Micah. How do I even put into words how good this death is? After 7 years, John gets his revenge for his dead brother. He goes with some of Arthur's closest friends, who get injured along the way, but that just proves how much a tank John is. Then, he gets taunted by the dude who killed Arthur, then greeted by his old mentor and the man who raised him since he was a little kid. Then, Dutch ultimately shooting Micah and you giving the final blow. It's absolute cinema. Even for how good it is, the last 3 are just beast mode. On the podium, coming in at number 3, we have Dutch. Dutch's death is more impactful after playing Red Dead Redemption 2, because Red Dead Redemption 1 as a standalone with his death is already amazing, but with his speech and him throwing himself off a cliff is just phenomenal. But mixed with Red Dead Redemption 2 Dutch and John's dynamic, Dutch raising John since he was a child, teaching him how to read, just for John to be pointing a gun at him, it's just hard to put into words how good it is. Now, before we get into the final two, you guys already know who the final contenders are. This has been super hard to determine, especially thinking about which of Arthur's deaths I'd be putting up against John. So, I'm going to do all of them. With John against high honor, go back for the money, John wins. With John against low honor, go back for the money, John wins. And with John against low honor, help John, John wins. Now here's the hard part. The quote, good Arthur ending versus John's. Let's look at both. Arthur gets to look off into the sunset as his tuberculosis finally wins. You can hear his last breath as Unshaken starts to play. And you know the last thing Arthur's thinking about is if John gets back to his family. Where John's death, he spent at least a month and a half tracking down his old family, so his real family doesn't get killed. Just for a few days to be shot like a dog. John's death is way more badass. He took at least 30 bullets and stood breathing for around 20 seconds. Maybe even more. So it's really hard to choose, but this is my final ranking. In number 2, I have John. This is the way I think about it. Arthur's death is more peaceful, where John gets gruesomely killed. Now, like I said, John's death is way more badass, but Arthur's death is more impactful. Now, I know a lot of people will disagree, but think about it like this. If Arthur hadn't done the help John, John probably wouldn't even be alive in Red Dead Redemption 1 to have his death. Most likely, I mean. Another thing is that after John just did the law's errands, he gets shot way worse by the Pinkertons than he did to Bill or Javier or Dutch. Where, with Arthur, he gets betrayed by essentially his father. Now you tell me which one is more impactful. So while it's really close, in number 1, I have Arthur. I feel like I've already said all that needs to be said about Arthur's death. It's impactful, sad, and it's happy in a way. If Arthur hadn't died, John's character probably wouldn't have been the same that he was in Red Dead Redemption 1. And if you think about it, even though I think Arthur wins overall, John still won against 3 other Arthur deaths. So there's that. Thanks for watching. Put in the comments your ranking for all the gang deaths, and if you want, you can put little explanations like I did. Also, again, shout out to Mr. Zero in the Discord for the idea. If you want to be featured like him, you can drop video ideas in the text channel Video Ideas, or add little details about Red Dead missions in the text channel Mission Facts. And you'll get shouted out too. You can join me at the link in my bio. See you next time.